Recording is on.
All right,
Okay.
I will then get started. I have already shared my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it looks perfect.
Great. Hi, everyone. To those who don't know me, my name is Wei Liu. I work at the World Bank with the title of a data scientist. I am a trained software engineer. And then I have been sort of working with openIMIS, contributing to the core modules in the past year or so. And then I work with the bankside team primarily on the core MS related functionalities and modules. And then I also work with the bank's colleagues on supporting some implementations projects that's been using core MS and then transitioning to openIMIS in the process. So today I would like to sort of propose some of the GitHub workflows that would help the maintenance of openIMIS, because I think there are multiple teams contributing, and also based on my experience working with openIMIS, it is a lovely open source community and it's very vibrant. There are a number of contributors from all over the world, and then people kind of contribute code and contribute comments on the code, and then contribute on wikis. There are students coming in sometimes too during summer to do internship, which also creates some code contribution in the process. So to manage all this contribution isn't easy, and then also with all these collaborations going on, I think the project would benefit from some governance, some in terms of like utilizing the tools of GitHub to make it easier for the maintenance teams to keep track of issues and pull requests, and then for the contributors to feel like their contributions are valued and then are responded in a timely manner. So that's sort of the intention of this suggestion and this presentation. I'm just going to move on to the next page. So here I'm just going to go ahead with some of the concrete suggestions. So number one is on branch protection rules. I would suggest that some of these rules are already applied, as you can see on the slides, but there are some additional enhancements that we can do with these rules to make them more strict, and it would apply on everyone. So branch protection rule is a feature on GitHub which they allow the teams to configure how they wanted to protect the default branch. And then in particular, there are certain practices that is very well recognized among within open source communities that should happen or should not happen. For example, no force pushes. So this is a git push where you can say git push -- force or -f, which will overwrite the history. And then this is such a pain for many developers if that is done on a default branch, because default branch people keep pulling and merging, and the history shouldn't be messed with. And then that's something that had happened in the past on one of the openIMIS repos, and it is caused frustration. So I would suggest that there should be no force pushes. I think this has already been enabled as a configuration as for branch protection rule for most of, if not all, the repositories under openIMIS. But the problem is that I think the admin bypass was not enabled. So because that was previously done by an admin, by a person with the admin permission, and then that should just not happen. No admin should ever do that. Nobody should ever be able to do that. So I would suggest apply this to an administrator, so then administrator cannot bypass and do the force push either. And the second one is on a mandatory code review. This, again, is also, I believe, configured on most, if not all, of the repositories and their openIMIS. Again, no admin bypass, because I've seen pull requests that are just out there and then merged without any approval, because the author who made the pull request has admin rights. And I don't think that is healthy just going forward for sort of like for the overall quality, and then also just knowledge, and then fairness, all these aspects of like openIMIS repositories. So again, this is something that's already enabled, but we should make sure there is no administrator bypass. The third one is a CI status check. That is something I think is also not currently enabled, because I think the CI has problems. And then there are, we have unit tests, and then there is some minimum end-to-end tests, which is in the distribution repo. And then that is currently, I think that those are currently passing, but then they need to be, I'm working on adding more tests. And then but then there are also linters, and then there are also code coverage sort of CIs, and then they are not, they're not always reliable. For example, the code coverage would complain on the PR that I was adding tests, and then they were saying like there is no coverage for this newly added test. So I think there's some configuration that need to be revealed for the coverage. And then linters, I think there's existing problems on the linters, and then so like sometimes when there is a PR sent, it would complain on the linting issues for the existing, for like the code that are existing, but not the newly added code. So if it's possible, we should also configure for the linters to only look at and then comply and fail for the code that is newly added, if we don't want to go back and then bring it to health. But anyway, so to start with this, at least I think we have very robust unit test suite, thanks to Patrick, his recent effort in sort of bringing that whole suite to its healthy status. So since we have that, we should enable that and make sure that has to be passing before a pull request can be merged. So that's something that we can start with. And then we add integration tests. Then we review linter, add linter, and then we review the configuration of coverage and add that back as well. So that we can take sort of a stepped approach to adding these CI status checks as requirements, and then enable them one by one. So that's just practically how I would suggest we go ahead with that. So effectively, we would have no force pushes, but then that is just like a ground rule for everyone. And then for code reviews and CIs, they have to be, at least there has to be one approval from a reviewer for a PR to be merged, and then it has to be passing the CI checks for the PR to be reviewed. So those are the minimum sort of requirements for PR merge. And this slide, just be warned, it's got a CI, it's got an AI generated image, and then I was going to replace it, but it's too funny, so I kept it. So second point is on having more descriptive PRs. So we've discussed this briefly in one of the developer calls. So because like currently there are pull requests that have been issued without descriptions, and which makes it difficult for people to understand, what is the rationale behind this PR. So I would recommend the PR must explain the rationale. So what was broken at the very minimum, tell us what is broken and then why is this needed. And then some additional thing that is good to have, I would also recommend, is some visuals for user-facing changes. And then this way, people can see what is expected. And then this would also, going back in time, when people check on certain changes, they would know, oh, this was the original intention in this change, and this is what to be expected if something's broken. And that's something that people can quickly grasp. And screen recording, there are just like various tools for very short, like very easy screen recording. You can just record whatever's happening, or you can just take a screen recording of your integration test or end-to-end test if you have that to cover your functionality. And then, so to facilitate this, we can also add like a pull request template. And then we can ask questions like why is this needed, and people can fill out the content of that pull request template, and then that should help enforce this. I put links to to the corresponding documentation whenever possible. But these things you can easily find them if you just Google them or ask ChatGPT. All right, so another point is on this pull request workflow. So I would suggest we start with organizing maintainers into teams. And the teams should be sort of functional or module-focused teams to highlight what they're sort of like. For example, I can be part of a cash transfer team or a core method team, like however it can be named. But it just to say that like I wouldn't, like personally, I wouldn't have much of a clue of the health related functionalities within openIMIS, but I know very well about the social protection, the cash transfer related functionality. So I would love to review all those related changes, and then the changes related to those repositories, as well as the core module for front end, back end, and all the shared functionality modules. But the teams can be organized as functional or contract, interoperability, solution building, and maintenance, and then when the PR comes in, and then the triage team, I would suggest would be someone from the maintenance team who be keeping an eye on all the pull requests that's been coming in. And whenever a pull request comes in, triage would add the relevant team. So if this is a pull request, so here are some examples on the bottom. If it's a pull request to the social protection module, which is currently named, or individual module, then they would add the cash transfer team and the maintenance team. And then how the teams can be organized, how the team can be configured. There is this code review assignment configuration on the team that we can set, and then we can enable auto assignments. And then we can say, all right, so for auto assignment, every time this team is selected, automatically pick 2 reviewers from this team. And then we can, the routing algorithm can be round robin, because that just means if there's a team of 4 people, if 2 people have just been assigned a PR, and next time another PR it came out, and the same team gets assigned a new PR, and then the other two people from that team will be assigned to review the new PR instead of the first 2 people. So the round robin just kind of get people to take turns to review pull request. And then the automatic assignment then saves the triage the headache of picking specific people. They just need to put a team on a PR, and then GitHub will take care of actually putting specific reviewers on that PR. And then this, I was just suggesting 2 reviewers from each team, because then, if one person didn't catch it, the other person will catch it. But these numbers they're all configurable. I'll show an example configuration at the end as well. And also if maintainer goes on leave, or they're busy, they couldn't, they're taking a break from openIMIS, for example, then they can mark their status as busy. So this way GitHub will not pick them up as reviewers. And then so this is a way to sort of like opt me out for now. So don't assign me any pull requests. So that's also something that is possible to configure for. That would be on the individual maintainer side. And then if, after 48 hours or 2 business days, there is no review, and then the triage can manually assign additional reviewers to a pull request. So below here are just some examples of, if it's a pull request to a core module, then triage can select all the teams, then you will get 8 reviewers on a PR and so forth. And then, how do we maintain the health of the maintainer pool? Because, some maintainers are just not active, and then who just do not respond to any pull requests, review requests. So then in that case, I would say we can have a quarterly review process where we can pull the statistics of, how many pull requests each reviewer have reviewed and have been assigned, and out of the assigned PRs, and then how many of them are reviewed within 2 business days. And then those ones who are inactive get removed from the maintainer pool, which is just the GitHub team. And then the ones who are, top reviewers who are always active, they get recognized for their effort. So that's, we can do that in like as a little ceremony in sort of like a quarterly developer community meetup. And then lastly, just sort of, what if an organization just have reviewers who are constantly, who's like eventually drained all their reviewers because none of them is active. And then this, I think, I don't know, GIZ, the coordination desk could consider asking for all the organization under contract or with agreements with GIZ to maintain a minimum number of active contributors proportional to the engagement scale. So that's just something to consider. The organization could name someone or could recommend people towards to contribute to the maintainer pool. And then in terms of there's some additional automation that we can utilize, and then these are functionality provided by GitHub. So one is auto merge. This is a functionality we can just enable. This is I think it's a per repository configuration. And then we could enable this for all the repositories. So this doesn't mean all the PRs are going to be auto merged. I think this is just something that once you enable it, then the author, anyone with the right permission to that repository with auto merge enabled would be able to click a button and say auto merge this PR when all the check passes. So this way, the maintenance team doesn't need to go and manually merge a PR once it's it's got approvals, it's all the CI is passing. So it will just automatically merge once all the checks are met. And then we can also use StaleBot, which is a GitHub action. We can then use it to, mark PR as stale after 48 hours, or use that functionality to nudge, because when there is a marking, you can attach a message or a comment, and then that acts as a way of nudging. So this is after the PR is inactive for 48 hours. And then which should prompt either the author or the assigned reviewers to take action. And then secondly is if there is no activity after 7 days despite the nudging, and then StaleBot can just close the PR automatically. This will just keep the repository clean. And then if there is a need for that PR, that can still be automatically, it can be manually reopened by the author or by any of the maintainers. So just to summarize, the pull request lifecycle works like this. The developer will open the PR, and then the triage will assign relevant teams to review the PR, and GitHub auto assignment will kick in, and then where the configured number of reviewers per team will be assigned using the round robin routing algorithm, and then once the reviewers provide comments, the author address comments, and this process, and then eventually the author receives approval from the reviewer, and then the CI check also passes, and then if given the auto merge is enabled, then the PR just gets merged automatically. So that's the suggested sort of the pull request lifecycle. So let's enable potential rules with no exceptions for all the repositories, and then for PR governance, let's have pull request template to require descriptive description for pull request, and then screen recording when possible, and relevant, and then for the structure, the sort of PR review workflow as summarized previously. We have a maintainer pool, quarterly review of the maintainer pool health, make sure we keep all the active maintainers and kick out the inactive ones, and recognize the top maintainers and reviewers. And then we have, for the PR workflow, we have triage, we have auto assignment using GitHub's feature, and then let's enable auto merge, and then with using StaleBot to automatically nudge when the PR is inactive, and close the stale pull request after 7 days or more if we need to adjust that configuration. So yeah, so these are what I would propose that we do, and then I'm happy to contribute to any of these configurations, and then if needed, and as problem, and this is the configuration that needs to be enabled for. This is the configuration on individual teams and settings. So you will see the code review tab, and then you check this one. I think it should just be by default. Enable auto assignment and choose how many GPU team is selected. The algorithm, there is round robin, there's load balancing, but the load balancing might I try to balance the workload, but then it's not based on how many pending PRs they have is total. So it's just trying to be fair. So I think round robin in this case probably would be better for sort of responsiveness of the PR review. Yeah, and then check or present.
Just to clarify some
Patrick.
points, so the branch are protected and no one but me could do first push.